Welcome everybody to the Tennessee Fish and Wildlife Commission Committee Meeting Day on February 20th, 2025. And I'd like to welcome everybody here today. And I will ask Commissioner Bill Cox to do the pledge and invocation, please.
Let's pray. Lord, thanks so much for this beautiful day, the opportunity to get together. Bless this agency and all that it does. Bless the commission, and may all our thoughts, words, and deeds be pleasing to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioner Cox. I appreciate it. Miss Mary, would you please call the roll?
Bonnie Ballou.
Here.
Brad Box.
Here.
Stan Butt.
Here.
Wally Childress.
Here.
Bill Cox.
Here.
Greg Davenport.
Here.
Chris Devaney.
Here.
Ford Little. Rhonda Moody. Here. Chip Saltzman. Tommy Woods.
Here.
Hank Wright.
Here.
Jimmy Granbery.
Here.
Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Miss Mary. We appreciate that. We have quite a few guests here today. Pardon me if I mispronounce your name, but we'll start off with Randy Robinson, Clarence and Laura Dye. Welcome there. We ought to make them honorary commissioners. They're here every month, and we appreciate your support. Haynes Torbett, Shaun Rosanna, Jesse Jewell, Stacy Cawthron, Chuck Holland, Ricky Scott, Billy Robertson, Larry Overstreet, Dale Robertson, Pebble Overstreet, Benson Kinsey, and Ron Shank. Thank you so much. If I mispronounced your name, I'm sorry, and we'll figure it out later. Anyway, Mr. Director, do you have any announcements?
I do, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, members of the commission. This meeting is going to be a bittersweet meeting for many of us because we're saying goodbye to you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners Woods, Childress, Wright, and Cox. We're very grateful for your service to the state. We're very grateful for your service to the sportsmen of this state, and we're looking forward to recognizing you more over the next 2 days. But for now, we're going to stay positive. We're going to talk about the annual report. So in front of you, commissioners, and many of you probably saw it on the table as you walked in the door, we've got our annual report that's here before you today. Our staff has worked incredibly hard to provide the highest level of service in wildlife and conservation, really, I think, anywhere in the country. I obviously think we have the best staff in the country and what they do. I'm very proud to be a part of this organization and to serve alongside of them. This report's a very valuable tool to shed light on the staff's efforts to meet that goal. This is a publication that, Mr. Chairman, I know that you've been very excited about. It's something the chairman has really pushed. He's been passionate about this. And inside, you're going to find information about the agency statistics, the services, and the different programs that the agency has to offer. But I just wanted to take a moment. You can see some of the slides up there. I want to take a moment and highlight some of the ones that I find the most impressive that are going to be in there. Land management is one I want to start with because obviously I came from the field and working with the land. But the agency manages more than 1.6 million acres, as you see here on the slide. We do that in conjunction with many partners. Obviously, the Cherokee National Forest is one of the biggest partners that we have up there in Northeast Tennessee or Southeast Tennessee, along other folks like Yoest Fish and Wildlife Service and TVA. Our biologists and managers implement many management plans on a rotational schedule to support high-quality wildlife habitat. We are proud to be able to put habitat on the ground to support these species. In FY24, they completed active management work on about 60,000 acres of public land. Our private lands biologists also supported habitat management on more than 9,000 acres of private lands. Next is hunting and fishing. That management work supports hunting opportunities. In FY24, we had 57,529 quota hunt applicants with 21,299 hunters that were successfully drawn. That's an average success rate of 37%. So we clearly have more demand than we can meet. Now, fishing's a little bit different story. On the fishing side of things, the agency stocked more than 8 million fish in Tennessee this year. You probably remember last year we stocked about 9 million. We were down just a little bit this year, which the agency supports many anglers. These anglers spent about 3.5 million hours fishing lakes and reservoirs. And based on surveys that our creel clerks do, they caught about 4.5 million fish and harvested 1.3 million of those. The next most important thing, and I think all you all would agree, is outreach. We like to do a lot of outreach across the agency. Our staff love to do these programs. The agency hosted more than 100 outreach events that reached about 17,000 people. And since our officers logged their work in a system that we call CAD, we know that they spent more than 16,000 hours participating in outreach activities. As you know, we want our officers to be ingrained in their communities. And I think 16,000 hours shows that they're doing that in these communities to do these outreach events. Plus all the hours that we know that other staffers put in. Our business operations staff, they answer thousands of hours of phone calls a year. I shared this yesterday now at the General Assembly. We are one of the only state agencies in Tennessee that are actually showing up at the office 5 days a week. I'm very proud of our staff. We're a forward-facing agency, so we're proud to have these regional offices where folks can come in and actually buy their license through our business operations there. These are just a few of the highlights that are in the annual report, but I encourage you, please read over those. We encourage members of the public to please get a copy of that. You can pick that up at our regional offices, or you can also find that on our website. One thing that you won't find in the annual report are daily stories where we hear about our staff members who are serving their communities. There's simply not enough pages in the report to really talk about all the things that they do, and I'm proud to say that. This is why I want to share one with you today. Scott, if you'll roll to the next slide on there. Over the weekend, there was flooding in Obion County. That's up in northwest Tennessee around the community called Reeves. That's R-I-V-E-S. We were called out first. They wanted our folks to come out and help folks that were in distress. Unfortunately, our neighbors up there were flooded. There was a levee that was over top there. Unfortunately, Commissioner Childress's home in the Bogota area, which many of you have visited, there's houses that are getting flooded there and some of those portions now. But our officers went out and actually helped in the town of Reeves. They were doing mandatory evacuations there. This is Officer Austin Parsley in the front, and that's Wildlife Manager Rob Lewis in the back, and they were actually helping this gentleman and get his pets out of the house there. So we're very proud of that work that our officers do to assist with these rescue operations. This is the kind of work our officers are doing every day that many times goes unnoticed. So thank you to the officers that assisted with that. We're praying for those communities. If you will, continue to remember those communities in your prayer, as many of those people have lost their homes and a lot of their possessions. So we just ask that you would lift them up and consider them at this time. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have, and we're looking forward to a good meeting today.
Thank you, Director. As always, you keep us well informed, and you mentioned a couple of things. I think this annual report is a fantastic piece of information that I know everybody on this commission and the staff is very proud of. And so we've got plenty of copies. Please take one and share it with friends and family. It's also online. This is our third edition, and it's online. It's very informative bit of information. He talked a couple of things I'll just expand on. He talked about what we do with outreach. We call it R3. Tomorrow, the commission will put into place an R3 award that will be issued annually to that person or commissioner or past commissioner or an individual in the general public that does a lot for R3, which is extremely important for the future of this agency since we depend on license sale. So we really look forward to putting that award into play tomorrow. And finally, he mentioned the 5 of us rolling off. I forgot to mention when I went through the guest, one of the governor's nominees to take the place of Commissioner Tommy Woods is in attendance today, Mr. Haynes Torbett. So welcome, Haynes, and we look forward to you joining this illustrious group in the future. That's all I have. Does any other commissioners have any comments before we get into the agenda? Okay, seeing none, I'll turn it over to Committee Chair Monty Ballou.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to call forward Chief Henegar, Chief of Fisheries, to proceed with a couple of proclamations.
Thank you, Chairman Blue. Thank you, Commission, for allowing me to bring the Fisheries Division's recommended changes to commercial take of fish and turtle, Proclamation 2501, to you today. If you remember, last month I brought the proposed regulations. We want to move forward with the following changes to the commercial proclamation. We'd like to update the scientific name of bowfin to reflect the recent changes by AFS. We also want to move forward with changing the end of paddlefish season for Kentucky Lake to March 31st from April 7th. This was a change that we looked at on recommendation from CFAC and some of the caviar producers there. They had brought it to us in 2023, actually, that at the end of season, they were receiving some eggs that were not viable for sale. The water temperatures were warming, the eggs were over ripening, and they wanted us to look at the dates or look at an emergency closing. Instead of doing that, we looked at the last 10 years of temperature data for all the reservoirs that are open to paddlefish fishing across the state. And it came back that on average over those 10 years, Kentucky Lake was warming about a week sooner than everything else. So we're bringing this change to you today based on that information. And then we would also like to increase the mesh size for gill nets used to harvest paddlefish from 6 inches to 7 inches. We feel like the paddlefish fishery is recovering from overfishing in the early 2000s, but this would assist in reducing some of the mortality that we see in sublegal fish, as well as male paddlefish that are not legal to harvest now. We've moved to a all-female paddlefish fishery and only allow the take of gravid females. So this would help with reducing some of that mortality. So the first change here in Section 2, General Provisions, our species list, would simply be the change for bowfin in the scientific name. The next change, again, as I remind you, would be the change to the paddlefish season for Kentucky Lake. It's first mentioned here in the exceptions in this general provision. And this just lays out the close season in this exception for paddlefish. Section L of this general provision over the years has been added to and never really clarified. We would like to essentially strike this completely. It contains the paddlefish fishing seasons as well as gear restrictions. And we want to separate that out into two. Subsection M would contain the paddlefish seasons. And you can see the change to Kentucky Lake there from noon, November 20th through March 31st. And then subsection L would contain the gear restrictions. And as you see there, the only legal gear for taking of paddlefish is 7-inch square mesh or greater for all waters except the Mississippi River. This in subsection O, there's just some housekeeping issues when we move to change some of our permit and move to the Brandt system. We did away with some of the types of permits. That type 100, 101, and 103 no longer exist. We're just simply striking that out. And then in section A, there it talks about the restrictions of net sizes for the T-chip program. A lot of the fishermen that fish for paddlefish also fish in our carp program. This would just reflect those changes to a 7-inch net size being the larger group of nets that they could use. In section 3, in fishing gear, we need to reflect that 7-inch change in trammel nets as well as gill nets. And that's all the recommended changes the Fisheries Division has at this time for the commercial prop.
All right, Commissioner, y'all have heard the presentation of Proclamation 2501. Is there any questions from the Fisheries Committee? Anyone on the Fisheries Committee. Commissioner Cox.
Yes, sir. Jason, when this was proposed, we had some comments from some of the fishermen about how this would be a hardship. There's probably the majority of the fishermen are in favor of it, but there's 3 or 4 fishermen that causes a hardship. My question for you is about what we're the way we're managing is, I'll be sure I asked this the right way. We're not measuring to keep the resource from collapsing. We're trying to help the fishermen by managing for a consistent harvest. Is that correct?
We are managing for sustainability of the paddlefish fishery. We
Right.
went through a downturn. The fishermen's experienced that. We've experienced that. We understand that we can't continue to do that. We need to manage for a sustainable population that provides consistent harvest.
Right. If we went with this coming year requiring 7-inch nets for no more than, or if we split it, they could use their 12 sets, 6 and 7 this coming year and all 7 next year to give them a year to kind of move into it. Would that, how would that affect what we're trying to do?
We understand that it could be a financial burden on the fishermen to move from a traditional 6-inch net that they have quite a bit of inventory in. We tried to buffer some of that. We'll provide them with nets that the agency purchased. We spent about $40,800 in purchasing 7-inch nets. We expect about 34 permitted anglers to need those nets to fish the inland waters. And so it'll provide them with about 105 pounds of netting that will tie out anywhere from 12 to 14 nets, depending on how it's tied out. To better answer your question, if we don't move straight to 7-inch this year, we're probably not going to see a collapse in the population. It'll probably slow our progress moving forward to that sustainable population, but it may be something that we could continue to work with the fishermen and still get to where we need to be. So it could be an avenue that we might go down.
All right, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna make a motion that we require the fishermen to have 7-inch nets for 6 sets and 6-inch, and the remaining 6-inch were the other 6 for this coming year, and then the following year have all 7 inches. And I think that might give them a little breathing room to try to get geared up where they can get more than just 12. And I don't think we're going to hurt the resource doing that.
Thank you, Commissioner. What about, let's see if we got any other questions or comments from Fisheries or the full commission. Anyone else? Go ahead, Commissioner Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a couple questions just for clarification. I think it'd be good for the public and for us. But Chief Henegar, you're saying if we have to go to 7-inch nets, if a fish can swim through a 7-inch net, would that mean that paddlefish is probably a little too small to harvest anyway?
We do see a lot of bycatch of sublegal fish and also the male fish. Like I said, we've moved this fishery to a gravid female only fishery. That's all that can be harvested. So we do see mortality in those other fish that are caught in 6-inch that may not be caught in 7.
That's what you're trying to accomplish, is catch fewer of the sublegal fish so that we don't have the mortality.
Correct.
And build the population to have a perfect fishery in a year or 2 or 3.
Correct. And increase our recruitment from year to year,
Okay,
instead
that's
of
all.
losing those fish that really can't be harvested anyways.
Jason, will a half and half, 6 and 7 present an enforcement problem for our agents in the field? If we have 6 sets of 6-inch and 6 sets of 7?
I would defer to LE for that.
Dale Grandstaff, Colonel of the Law Enforcement Division. I guess I would assume whatever the parameters are set, that's what the officers will work. So if it's set at a certain date and then runs out to another date for those mesh sizes, they'll work that however it's set up.
Hey, Colonel, before we leave, do we make very many paddlefish cases? I know I've worked some in the years past, but I know they're few and far between most of the time.
You're correct. We make a few every now and then, but I mean, officers check it, but not a lot of cases made on it.
Thank you, Colonel. Any more commissioner comments or questions? Yeah. Seeing none, do we have on Commissioner Cox's motion, do we have a second on that? Moving 6 nets can be 6 inches this year, 6 can be 12, and then move into a full 7 inches the 26, 27 year. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Second by Brad Box. Before we go any further, if it's okay, I was going to ask for any public comment. I know we've got a few gentlemen I thought that were here today, maybe that actually work in this field that would like to step forward. Just state your name, where you reside, and you got 3 minutes. So whoever, yes, sir, come on forward.
I'm Ricky Scott. I'm a commercial fisherman. Been fishing about 45 years, and the fisherman's been in it 20 or more years. We have probably what we've seen for our future was we could keep building nets, and at some point we wouldn't have to build anymore. So that's what we've done. And I didn't want to just say I've got 300 and something nets, and y'all not believe it, but I got proof of it. I took a picture of my nets, and this is not all of them. This is only 300 of them, and they're not junk. They're good nets.
Here, I'll pass them out. We don't have a bailiff up here, but I'll act like one.
So I wanted to bring proof with me, and there's two more rooms that I have nets in, and they're new nets. Now these are all used nets, but just a very few. But I got 2 rooms of new nets, and what my plan was is not, and I've done exceeded that plan, and I've got to the point I don't have to make any the rest of my life. And I'm going to take those that I've left over and it's going to leave them to my grandson and my son to fish with. And they wouldn't have to buy new nets. But if you pass this, that plan's gone, And these nets are not cheap. They run, depends on how you make them. They run from anywhere from $300 to $400 a piece. And that's being conservative. And if the TWRA buys us webbing, we still got to have them tied, and we still got to have them, buy the stuff to tie them with, and we have to hire them to be tied, which is the webbing is about half the price of the net. So we've still got to spend that money to do that. On top of that, we have to start from scratch again. And I agree that there is some mortality, especially in the end of the season. But by shortening the season, like he's proposing to do, that is going to stop tremendously a lot of the mortality, because the temperature gets over 58 degrees. Even on 7/8, you're still going to have mortality when it gets above 58 degrees. And that's the reason I agree with him. Probably the season needs to be shortened. Bad as I hate to say that, it's the truth. But I also don't think that a 7-inch net is going to help that much on the mortality. If you need to shorten the season, that's good. That'll stop the mortality. But I don't think the 7-inch is going to help that good, because if you get over 58 degrees, they're going to start dying. You're going to have bad eggs. And I agree with that. If that's the cutoff point to where it gets above 58 degrees, then that's what needs to be done. But I know there's probably not a commercial fisherman up here, is there? All right. So I'm going to come at this a different way. All right. Just say that most of y'all deer hunters. Yeah. Okay. Just say that the TWRA said, or the government, whoever, come to you and propose that we're killing too many deer. Okay? I'm just being hypothetical, but this is sort of way I'm trying to, where y'all can understand what's going on to us. You're killing too many deer, so we want to try to do something about it. So instead of shortening the season or doing something like that, we're going to make your guns illegal. And you can only, the guns you have now, they're not going to be legal anymore, and you'll have to use a 12 gauge with slug.
Right.
So you got to go buy that 12 gauge slug, and all them guns that's in your gun case you can't use no more.
Right.
You've invested.
Let me
If
ask you
you're-
this, sir.
Yes, sir.
What body of water do you fish?
Kentucky Lake and Mississippi River, and occasionally the Cumberland, but not as often.
Okay. Hey, we
And-
thank you for your comments. Does anybody else have any questions for this gentleman?
Can I give you?
Yeah,
one?
just a couple more seconds.
All
We're
right.
out.
I have made two sets of 7-inch since I've been fishing, the 40-something years I've fished, and both sets. What we done was we put them out. 1 6-inch, 1 7-inch, 1 6-inch, 1 7. I don't know if that's been done, but we have done it with two different sets of nets in two different years. And both times the 7-inch caught less than half of what the 6-inch caught. And we're not talking just unlegal fish, but also the fish that's too small, but also the gravid females that's legal.
Right.
And so it's going to cut our catch big time, a lot more than I think some people realizes. So I wanted to let y'all know that it's not just a hardship building the nets and throwing all these nets away, because they're going to be no worth nothing. They'll be legal.
Well, I would just like to say thank you for coming forward and making these comments. Number one. Number two, I've helped and worked with some commercial fishermen
Yeah.
years ago.
Mhm.
I know what hard work it is.
Yeah.
I know how cold the wind blows out there on the lake, November and December. So we do appreciate your efforts and coming forward and bringing those points of interest in the photos today. And, I think as a commission, we're trying to strive to keep that paddlefish and so your kids and grandkids can continue this tradition and carry it on down the road and just want to do the best thing for fisheries overall. But we understand there's a good compromise there maybe as well.
If you decide to do this instead of staying with the 6, I asked you to more than just half and half next year. I asked you to give us a minimum of 3 years, because it's not just one set of nets. It's been asked before, why would you have 300 nets?
Mhm.
You have to have a set for in case one set trashes up, you happen to have another set to take over the next day if you've been,
Right.
And not only that, you need sets for shallow water and you need sets for the deep water.
Okay.
They're different net, and you also need short nets for eddies, and you need long nets for
A little bit of everything.
So you shouldn't have if you're a commercial fisherman, you shouldn't have no less than 50 nets at the
Right.
minimal. And I can tell you, all these commercial ones here, you can ask them, and they all probably got 100 to 150 nets.
Right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Is anyone else, public comment, would like to step forward?
My name's Larry Overstreet, and I've been a commercial fisherman for 20 years. And one thing I wanted to mention, we're not really hurting paddlefish. When I first got in this, there was over 100 fishermen carried these permits, and 20 years ago. Now we're down to 30 something, or
40.
40 permits. We're dying breed. We're just about to leave out. I mean, I'm in the same boat Ricky's in with nets. I've got a bunch of nets, and I built them ahead of time where I wouldn't have to build them later. And this would be very costly. These 7-inch nets, it costs us a lot of money now. You all know how inflation is. It's really went through the roof, but very limited time have we got to fish because of high waters. The dams are opened up, and you can't put nets in the river when the water's running. Last year I fished in the river channel. Last spring I fished 3 days in the river channel. Is all I got. I fished an eddy for about 3 weeks. That's all the fishing I got to do last season. But anyway, I've even been thinking about dropping my permit. I don't want to. I'd love to fish for these things as long as I could. But it's really gonna hurt us, and it'll put me out of business is what it'll do when they go 7-inch nets. I just can't do it. But it's something I want y'all to consider, because we need some time on this to use what equipment we got. We really need it. If y'all can help us, please do that.
Thank you for your time. Anyone else from the public comment? Just state your name, where you reside, and give us 3 minutes worth.
I'm Benson Kinsey. I'm from East Tennessee, Chattanooga area. I'm a commercial fisherman. Like these other gentlemen said, I have like 50 or 60 paddlefish nets, and I guess what we're asking for is time. A couple of years to use up our gear. If we could do half and half or 2 seasons or something, that would just really help us out, just help everybody out. It's just time. Like Ricky Scott said, it's more than just tying up 12 nets. We just would like to see a little bit more time with the 6-inch. And that's all I have to say.
Commissioner Butt.
Yes, sir. Do any of you gentlemen that have spoken, do you use those nets for other fish? Do you fish specifically for different fish, or is this just all paddle fish?
The 6-inch nets are specifically for paddlefish. We don't use them for we're not allowed to fish them outside the season. So
Okay.
It's just for paddlefish.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Chairman?
Mr. Scott, I guess, what's the life expectancy of a net from new once you put it into service? Yes, sir.
5 years.
5 years. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else from the public? Seeing none at this time, I think Commissioner Cox has got a motion. We've got a second by Commissioner Box to amend 2501 Section L to making this a year process where they can fish with 6-inch nets. Half of their nets can be 6, the other half, 6, can be 7-inch nets. But next year, 26, 27, is that correct, y'all? 26, 27 year, it will automatically become straight 7-inch nets. Is that your motion, Commissioner Cox?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Fisheries Committee only, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, ayes have it. At this point in time, we're going to go ahead and move that 2501 with the amended Section L to the full committee tomorrow. All right, back to you, Chief.
Okay. I'll make those changes and bring that tomorrow. I'd like to go ahead and move to the recommended changes to the Sportfish Proclamation 25-02. Just want to kind of reiterate the problems that we're facing with invasive species. A lot of people think about invasive carps and zebra mussels and things like that. One of the major fights we're fighting in the southeast right now is with Alabama bass. This species was identified and speciated out. It used to be thought as a subspecies of spotted bass. It was deemed its own species in 2008, and it's a huge game species in its native range in Alabama and the Coosa River in southeast Tennessee. But it's been introduced into a lot of other systems throughout the southeast. We're experiencing it in Tennessee River. This slide here, you can see largemouth, smallmouth, and Alabama bass in the center. And then on both sides of that, we've got pictures of the hybrids that occur when Alabama bass spawn with smallmouth and spotted bass. So identification is a huge issue. And in Tennessee, we've managed for trophy smallmouth for many years. I think our first quality smallmouth regulations were around 2009 on the Tennessee River. And this really takes the ability for us to manage smallmouth fisheries kind of out of our hands. So we would like to recommend a change to Parksville Reservoir. This is the reservoir that we first identified Alabama bass being introduced to. It's really ground zero for Alabama bass. We would like to remain at a 5-fish creel, 15-inch minimum length limit for largemouth. Smallmouth, spotted bass, Alabama bass, and their hybrids would all be lumped together. And we would have no creel, no minimum length limit, but we also want to restrict live transport of any black bass species away from Parksville Reservoir. This reservoir only has a few access areas. This could be enforced, and it would hopefully stop the movement of these pure Alabama bass out to other waters across the state. If we don't stop the illegal stocking of Alabama bass into our other reservoirs, we will lose smallmouth bass in the state of Tennessee. It's coming if we can't get the attention to this that it deserves and get these illegal stocking stopped. The next group of reservoirs is Chickamauga, Nickajack, and Guntersville reservoirs. These reservoirs account for a large number of our TARP submissions for smallmouth bass into our Tennessee Angler Recognition Program. They're known to have quality smallmouth bass fisheries below the dams on each one of these reservoirs, and we would like to try to maintain that quality fishery as long as possible. We know that the introductions happened. There's hybrids there, and we know that identification is difficult, but we would like to try to maintain this quality fishery. So we want to have a black bass creel limit in combination of 5 fish. Largemouth bass would be 15-inch minimum length limit. Smallmouth, spotted, and Alabama bass or their hybrids will have no minimum length limit. Only one fish may be over 16 inches per day in that. So it allows for the harvest of those small hybrids, but adds a little bit of protection for those quality fish. Maybe try to maintain that a little longer. Next group of reservoirs is Chilhowie, Fort Loudon, Tellico, Watts Bar, and Pickwick Reservoir. With the hybrid introduction here, we would like to just simplify the regulations. Each one of those reservoirs has a different regulation, and we would like to just simplify that, go to a straight black bass, 5-fish creel, 15-inch minimum length limit. Make that easy on identification for fishermen, for tournament directors, and for our law enforcement individuals as well. Moving on to Tellico River, this really doesn't have any impact from Alabama bass at this time. But if you remember, I brought up that we had done an exploitation study on our smallmouth bass fisheries in streams and rivers across the state over the last couple of years. And we saw that this trophy regulation for Tellico River was really not being reached. And we could move back to the statewide 5-fish creel in combination, no minimum length limit there. So we would like to do that at this time. Marrowbone Lake is one of our TWRA agency lakes. We're seeing that the slot limit quality fishing regulation there is really not achieving what we want to. We're experiencing some stockpiling smaller fish. We would like to remove that regulation and move to a 10-fish daily creel, no minimum length limit. Davy Crockett Lake, we've had that 10-fish creel limit, no minimum length. We're starting to see some change there and seeing some better quality fish. We'd like to add a little bit of protection for those fish over 18 inches and would recommend changing that to no daily creel limit, only one bass over 18 inches at Davy Crockett. Lake Halford, if you remember, is one of our Bill Dance signature lakes. We've began some intensive management there with stocking of forage fish and some changes in in krill and length limits. When we first started that program, we took the daily krill and the minimum length off of crappie because we weren't looking to manage crappie at this lake. Some of our forage stockings have been really successful. We're seeing some increased growth rates of crappie there, and we would like to go back with a 20 fish daily krill limit and only 5 fish allowed over 12 inches. So it allows for the harvest of those smaller crappie and protects those fast growing fish, hopefully be able to maintain a quality crappie fishery at Lake Halford. The city of Gatlinburg came to us last fall, and they have a youth fishing event as part of Bobby Wilson Free Fishing Day. They've experienced some issues with maintaining a youth only in the section of river that they want to have this event. They're asking us if we can make about 0.6 miles of West Prong Little Pigeon River closed to fishing anglers 16 years and over until 11 a.m. on Free Fishing Day. This is a similar regulation that we have on Tellico River. It's worked out quite well up there. We'd like to just add it to this river and help the city of Gatlinburg out with their event. And then lastly, we need to also change some scientific names here in the Sportfish Proclamation, similar based on those changes by American Fisheries Society, similar to the commercial rule. If you remember, I announced we would have a comment period for the Sportfish regulations. Here is some of the results from that comment period. We had 61 individuals that commented on the regulations. All 61 of those commented on the black bass regulations. We had 74% of those that were in support or neutral, had 16 opposed. The opposed comments, I read through those. I read through all of them, but I read through the opposed. A lot of the opposition didn't really seem to understand the identification issues and the hybridization that we experience over there. Some of those didn't think any black bass should be harvested, and others thought smallmouth bass deserved a no harvest or a quality regulation. They didn't support any harvest of smallmouth bass. So then you can see the other regulations there. Most support or neutral was 93 to 97% in favor or neutral on the regulation changes. We did ask for an overall satisfaction of fishing in Tennessee, and we received an overall satisfaction rating of a 3.9. That was on a scale from 1 to 5. So it seemed like most people that commented were satisfied with fishing in Tennessee. That's all I have.
Chief, that's a lot of information. I'll go ahead and open it up to questions from Fisheries or the full commission. Anyone have a question or comment?
Procedural point. We voted on the previous proclamation amendment. We didn't vote on the proclamation.
Okay. So we'll go back and revote on the 2501. 2501.
I'm trying to remember what happened. I thought we did, but out of abundance of caution, let's.
Well, since it had never been voted on before, it was just a proposal. Does it have to be voted on twice?
Well, you have to vote to change the proposal however you see fit, and I think you did that.
We did that.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and vote to refer the amended proclamation.
Okay.
Or vote on the entirety of the proclamation and
All
refer.
right. Fisheries Committee only, 2501, as it was amended, subsection L. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. We're gonna, no, we're 2501. Yeah, we went back to the first one. So, all right. So that is moved forward to the full commission tomorrow. Now, 2502. Do we have any questions or comments from Fisheries or the full commission? Seeing none, do we have a motion for 2502 to proceed out of fisheries? I'll make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Chairman Devaney, soon to be Chairman Devaney. Commissioner Devaney, all in favor from fisheries, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. 2502 is referred to the full commission tomorrow. So
Thank you,
thank you,
Commissioner.
Chief.
Got a quick question while you're leaving. The 3.9 satisfaction, was there a follow-up question of suggestions of what would make fishing better in Tennessee? I'm sure you got 1,000 responses if you,
There was not.
okay, all right.
Thank you, Commissioner Blue. And we have one omission on the visitors list. Former Commissioner Brian McLaren snuck in and tried to circumvent the rules and didn't sign in. So duly noted that former Commissioner Brian McLaren is in attendance. Welcome, Brian. We're glad to see you back. At this time, I'll turn it over to Chair of Budget Committee, Commissioner Bill Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe we have Ken Tarkington to present the finances, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be reporting on the month of December. We have 3 or 4 slides here for you. The first slide is the boating fund, the condition of it. The registration income is approximately $35,000 more than was projected through the month of December. On the expense side of the budget, of the boating budget, we've expended 27% of the budget. Next slide. On the wildlife side of the house, license income is doing quite well, is 3.5 million above the actual projection. And the expense to date through December is 32% of the allotment. Next slide. The Wetlands Acquisition Fund has approximately $23 million as a balance. And then the last slide shows the condition of the funds invested with the Treasury and the SPIF balance for all 4 funds. And I would note that the Wildlife Fund does include the $10 million that has been appropriated for the Bill Dance Signature Lakes. The current as of December SPIF rate, that's the State Pool Investment Fund rate, was 4.56%. Any questions or comments?
Any questions from the Budget Committee or the full commission? Yes, sir.
I'd just like to commend the team for their projections versus the annual, the job that they've done in analyzing that and making that projection. I have done that previously, and I know that's a difficult task on a regular basis. So I commend you for an outstanding job there as far as revenue versus expenditures. Thank you.
That's all you got?
That's all I got.
Thank you. Would you leave that slide up, please, sir?
Sure.
Since I don't know who's going to be budget chair next year, I'm going to put a couple of things on the table as suggestions. Frank Fiss and I have talked about our investment accounts. The lifetime and the wildlife funds currently are being reinvested into the funds, which is good. The balance sheet assets get bigger, but the agency needs cash flow. We need money. So I'm going to suggest that the future budget committee and the commission work with the staff about getting those coupons into the cash flow of the agency. And I noticed, Frank, that the lifetime is now in the black. So the concern about getting the interest off of that, we could probably get that too. The other thing is that I'm very concerned, and Frank's working on it with a third-party accounting firm about the lifetime licenses, especially the juvenile license. The projections that Frank did show when a child has had that license and gets to be 20, 21, 22 years old, we start losing revenue on that person to the rest of his life. And the future, you could be losing 20, 30, 40 million a year when all of these mature. I think if we can get from the administration some money and we can get other income, I'm going to suggest that we get rid of the lifetime licenses as quickly as you can, because we're sacrificing the future for $3.5 million currently in the budget. That's all I've got, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Cox. Thank you, Ken, for the report. And I always like it when you hear we're in the black, because a couple of months ago, the lifetime license fund was not in very good shape. And this commission has made a lot of important decisions for the future of this agency relative to budget. And Commissioner Cox's points are well taken, along with all the other things that we've done. So, future Mr. Chairman, you've duly noted, correct?
Duly noted.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right, at this time, I'll turn it over to R3 Chairman Wally Childress.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask our TDEC Commissioners designee, Mr. Chuck Yoest, to come forward to introduce our presenter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can handle it from here. So if I'd like to invite up Park Manager Shaun, Rainone, the Park Manager of Henry Horton State Park. He's one of my favorite colleagues, and he's got a presentation that he'd now like to lead to the commission. And after the presentation, or at the end of it, he's going to share a gift with the commission. However, rather than present it officially in the moment at a break or at the end, we'll capture a photo outside with it. But the floor is yours. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you, Mr. Yoest. And thank you to the commission for having me here today. My name is Shaun Rainone. I'm the park manager at Henry Horton State Park. Just wanted to take some time to acknowledge a gift that we received just recently. So if you could go to the next slide for me. Just a brief overview of Henry Horton State Park, being kind of a gem of Marshall County, situated on the Duck River, which has received quite a bit of attention as of late, notably Executive Order 108 and the efforts of our partnership here. And so a very special place, also known as one of the most biodiverse rivers in North America. Next slide, please. So most of you probably can't read that small text up there, but what we're here today to talk about is that momentum creating motivation and maintaining at one of our facilities at the multi-sporting area, which we formerly recognize as the Trap and Skeet Range at Henry Horton State Park. We're now maintaining 4 trap fields, 5 combo fields, 8 new throwers were actually gifted through a grant for $35,000, and that was done in 2023. We've added a reservable shelter. The shelter was there, but it's now available to the public for public use and reservations. We have a brand new gift shop available up there. Since the addition of mountain biking, we have seen a major increase in the traffic up there. We're up about 111%. Since 2022. So the numbers look like 6,500 cars in 22 to about 23,000 cars in 2024. We know cars carry more than one person at a time. So we've added 6.5 miles of mountain biking. We have an archery range there that's been improved upon. We also have a law enforcement firing range that is receiving some improvements, and we're really excited about that as well. We just in 2024 hosted the State Skeet Championship, and we hosted several shooting events, and we've hosted TWA there several times. Next slide. So I'll leave this slide for just a moment, but I did want to kind of acknowledge the gift here. So to kind of paint an overview, Henry Horton State Park Trap and Skeet Range was established in 1968, following the conversation between Governor Buford Ellington and his close friend Sam Linton, a Marshall County industrialist and sportsman. Mr. Linton convinced the governor that such a facility, the only trap and skeet range located in Tennessee state parks, would gratefully benefit local sports enthusiasts and young people. Additionally, hosting the state shooting tournaments would generate revenue for Middle Tennessee. Recognizing the facility's value, Governor Phil Bredesen authorized an expansion in 2005, increasing the range to its current size for 4 trap fields and 5 combination fields and skeet fields. The project also included state-funded upgrades, replacing aging equipment with new commercial skeet and trap machines, and notably, this was the last major equipment update until recent. In 2022, Miss Ann Anderson of Mississippi gave $5,000 to the refurbishing campaign in honor of Sam Linton Jr. And his family. This action prompted notable donations, including $1,500 from Mr. Bill Penn and other repairs and improvements. With the momentum, the Friends of Henry Horton State Park used these generous contributions to prompt submitting a grant proposal in 2023 for the $35,000, which will replace 8 skeet throwers. And we're pleased to announce that that project has been fully funded and put in place. So with this investment, all skeet and trap fields have once again become fully operational. Recent trap machine upgrades combined with the new skeet machines restore the facility's ability to host the state tournaments and as it once did. So with all of that said, we've done a lot more than just the upgrades that you helped us with, but that really kick-started a lot of momentum for us. So at this time, if you would join me in expressing our deepest gratitude for all of those involved. If you go to the next slide, the folks listed here, Executive Director Maxton and Commissioner Stan Butt Sr., Lacey Lane, folks with me, Miss Stacy Cothran, Chuck Holland, the Friends of Henry Horton State Park, and others who were on staff, and several members who donated as well. We would just like to thank the commission and those involved, and take the time to acknowledge your support for sportsmen's, youth programmers, and competitive shooters for years to come. So thank you very much for having me here today. We'd be happy to have any of you at our trap and skeet range, the multi-sporting area, and we'd enjoy having you back at any point. So after you conclude, we do have a plaque to present as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Yes, sir.
So glad it's going well. Mr. Chairman, that concludes the work of the R3 committee.
Thank you, Chairman Childress. I appreciate that. And thank you, Shaun, for coming out today, and hope I didn't butcher your name too bad the first go around. But anyway, thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody. We're coming to the end of the meeting today. We got a dinner tonight, and we got a meeting tomorrow here, our official final commission meeting for the class of 2025 at 9:00 here tomorrow morning. Do I have any other comments from the public or the commission? Seeing none, thank you very much for coming today, and we are adjourned.